Welcome to another great episode of Lokar Car Show. On today's show, we open the doors and invite you into our home in Knoxville, Tennessee. We have some awesome cars and people here today, receiving an inside look at how we manufacture our quality parts. Plain and simple.
Hi, I'm Debbie from Lokar. Welcome to Lokar's 15th open house in 2016. We're in our brand new facility and we can't wait for you to see the number of cars that have turned out to see our new facility.
The first car and owner we're going to showcase is Jeff Cole and his 1966 Ford Mustang Shelby GT350. There's a devastating story behind why this car is no longer a numbers matching car. Jeff says he's okay with that because if it were, it would be too valuable to drive. He bought the car after seeing it for sale while on vacation and has been working on it for 23 years.
I was going on vacation back in 1992 and saw the car on the side of the road. Drove down said to my wife, "You want the car or go on vacation?" She said, "Let's go on vacation." So we passed the car up and came back a month later and I found the car again and we decided to buy it. It was basically in a basket, tore apart, and we went from there. I've been working on it for 23 years.
Take a look at this 1963 Chevrolet Nova 2 owned by Bill Townsend. This is a resto mod that was built to put mileage on the odometer. So far, Bill and his wife have racked up around 30,000 of them, and he doesn't plan to change a thing. With AC, a 6-disc CD changer, and lots of other amenities, he doesn't have to.
My wife and I have been hot rodders for quite a while. We had a little 48 Ford pickup that we really loved. We've been to a lot of shows, won some awards, but we're both kind of long-legged, and we didn't have enough leg room in it. So we got to looking for something bigger, and we found this Chevy 2 Nova in the St. Louis area. We went up and bought it. It was built in Oakland, California. It went to Arizona, and somebody stored it for about 16 years, and it just absolutely destroyed the paint. Held moisture under the plastic, you know. So anyway, we had it completely redone. I have a mechanic that lives about 20 miles from me. They stripped it down, did a frame-off restoration. It's really comfortable. My wife and I like to travel in it. We've been to Washington State, Burlington, Vermont, across lower Canada, been to cruising the coast down in Mississippi. We took it to Bonneville. You can see the cap here. We were out there a couple of years ago. I actually drove it out on the salt flats. And it's a nice car, so that there was a guy there that when we came off the flats, he had a power washer. He'd power wash underneath it, get the salt off of it. But we drive it. Like I say, it's a driver. We've got about 30,000 miles on it. Some of the trips we've been on were like 22 days, about 6,000 miles. And so it's really a good little car. We've really enjoyed it.
Wow, what a cool looking car. This is a 1947 Lincoln owned by retired insurance salesman Donald Greenlee. He has restored the car from the frame up himself, including painting it in his garage. This is a resto mod like our last car, but this one has a few different parts from a few different cars from a few different years. Donald's goal and reasoning behind this car is for travel, and with the modifications he has made, that shouldn't be an issue.
Well, I own a 1947 Lincoln. We bought it about 14 years ago after I retired. And the reason I bought a bigger car, I've been into cars and hot rods since 1959. And it's always been small cars like Model A's, that type of car. And I wanted something bigger so we could travel in. So we found this 1947 Lincoln, and we ended up buying it. And I completely restored it myself. Took it all the way down to the frame. And what you see is the things I put into it. I did this over the years as a hobby. And this car, I didn't expect to do what I've done on it. I thought I would just kind of put it together and we can go down the road in it. But when I got into it, it got a little bit more involved. The complete car was really a bucket of rust. I had to do all my own fabrication. taught myself how to do lead work, did all the floorboards, all the quarter panels. Everything you see is I did it. When I bought the car, we still lived in Ohio. But 2 years later, we decided to move to Florida, a place called the Villages. Well, down there, every day is a play day. So we go play golf or pickleball or tennis or whatever, and the car didn't see much work. So I might work on it once a week or something like that. Until the last 4 or 5 years, then I concentrated on trying to get the car done. And I finally finished it about 2 years ago. And we put about 15,000 miles on it since then. And we really enjoy it and having a good time with it.
This impeccable 1965 Impala Super Sport you see here is owned by Bill Dozier. There is an interesting story behind this car and why Bill wanted it.
What inspired me to buy the car, I saw one on TV that had been done. It was a white car with a blue interior, like this one. And that brought back some old memories of 65 Super Sport, which was the first new car I ever bought. And I said, I really like it. I always liked it back then. I want to see if I can find one. And I found this one in South Carolina and went over and talked to the guy on a weekend. We reached a figure that was agreeable with both of us, and so I ended up with the car. It has front disc brakes on it for obvious reasons now. Dual reservoir master cylinder. We have lowered the car, put some contemporary wheels on it now, but it is a good driver, not a show car. It is a driver, and I call it a cruiser. I like the bigger cars. For some reason, I don't know, there's cruisers and there's hot rodders. I'm a cruiser, but I enjoy the car and the size of the big cars.
Hey, like I told you at the beginning of the show, this is an open house. Take a look at some of the Lokar cars that we have available for public viewing. We love racing here at Lokar, and the innovation on the track helps us produce quality parts for you. Stay put, because we'll be right back with more beautiful cars from our Lokar open house here on Lokar Car Show. The Lokar Car Show, presented by Original Parts Group, is brought to you by ARP, proudly made in the USA, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, world-class restoration parts. Lokar, quality, plain and simple. And by National Parts Depot, make your dream happen. If you have an old Model A Ford that doesn't have a back seat and your wife gets pregnant, what do you do? Well, Jim Benson's solution was to buy a 1933 Ford sedan. That back seat was his solution to keep his hot rod hobby going, and he passed the fever down to his little girl, whom isn't so little anymore.
Well, I had a 1934 Ford 5-window coupe, and my wife accidentally got pregnant, and we needed a car with a back seat. And so I got looking around and found this one in a guy's basement, and bought it, took it home and rebuilt it, and this is what we got today. Oh, everything. We put the Chevy 327 engine in it, 700R Ford rear end, got Thunderbird bucket seats, 9-inch Ford rear end. Had another guy did most of the work, because by that time that little girl came along and I had to entertain her and take care of her and work, and so I had a guy build most of it, and he painted it and everything. Oh, we cruise all around town, and like I say, coming over here every year, that's been a thing for probably 14 years. We've been coming over here to Lokar, really good time. And we just get out and about and have fun with a lot of people. We come over here one year, I remember by myself, coming down through the mountains, and I passed two little old ladies in a Buick LeSabre, and before I even got up to them, the driver, she's looking over at me like this. And as I went by, they were just waving, and I could think to myself, they were in their 80s. Probably saying, I remember when so-and-so had a car like that when we were dating, you know, back in the day. That always comes to mind when I think about cruising down the road.
If you're familiar with our show at all, then you know that we don't just stick to cars. Richard Runnels' 1954 Chevrolet 3100 pickup is too clean not to show. This truck still has a job to do and pulls a camper trailer around the nation for Richard's work with the NSRA.
I bought this vehicle 5 years ago in Moultrie, Georgia at a car corral swap meet, and I proceeded then to tear it completely apart. I've replaced the engine in it with a GM 350 block. It has a chassis engineering front end, independent front end under it. We have a Walker radiator, we have vintage air into it. We have an overdrive transmission, 10-bolt rear under it. Running on leaf springs. I pull a 27-foot camper behind this. I work for NSRA, as you can see, and I do a lot of traveling around the country. And so we pull a trailer with us. It's our cheapest way to travel. When we're going down the road, we get a lot of thumbs up, and people toot their horn as they go by, and they appreciate the work that goes into them.
We're shifting gears again, this time to bring you an iconic muscle car. But this isn't a Ford or a Chevy, this is a 1967 Pontiac GTO. This goat was bought from the original owner in 1981 and is a driver's car. There have been a few upgrades made to it by the current owner. Let's hear from him.
I used to ride to work with the guy that bought it new, and I told him if he ever decided to sell it, I wanted to buy it. And he called me one Saturday morning and said that he decided to sell. He's going to buy him a new car, so I bought it off of him. I've upgraded the brakes, gone to 4-wheel disc brake, put bar brakes on it, 5-speed transmission in it, 12-bolt Chevrolet rear end under it. Got 18-inch wheels under the rear, 17s under the front. Heat and air, tilt, and AM and FM. We just do whatever we need to do, really. We'll go eat a lot of times in it, drive it to church, just get out and cruise around. I just like to drive it.
We're going to take a break from the Lokar Open House here in Knoxville, Tennessee, but we'll be right back with plenty more to see. It's time for Lokar Lowdown with Jeffrey Walls.
Along with many of the other interior products that Lokar offers, we also have window cranks and door handles. We offer them in many different styles and options to fit most of the styles and options you see with our pedals and other products that you can get for the inside of your vehicle. We have our Lakester series, as well as matching our original windowed series like you see on our gas pedals. And we also offer in black, chrome, or stainless brush. And we also have a raw look for those of you that are interested in that, maybe play with a rat rod or just like that raw look overall. The difference with these door handles is that the splines are set up so that we're converting from the spline in your car, whether it's a square spline or 12-point, 16-point spline, to a much finer one that allows you to put this cover over and allows you to index that door handle so that they can match on both sides of the car. This really helps when you're dealing with door handles much like the ones with the square splines. Then once you're done, put the cap over the top, finish it off. After you've been inserted it, you're good to go.
Check out Rick Hartlerode's 1932 Ford Roadster. This is a dream car for many hot rodders because this is one of Henry Ford's original steel cars. This is one gorgeous frame-off restoration completed by a 60-plus year hot rodder.
I've got a 33 sedan, I've got a 55 Chevy, I've got a 51 Chevy pickup, of course a 32, that one, and a 34 coupe body. I'm 66 years old and I've been in the hot rodding since I was probably 6 years old. A labor of love, it's in my blood. Hot rodding is definitely in my blood. Yeah, you know the guys out in California had all their hot rods and the 32 Fords and things, and we didn't have that much back here in Tennessee. And my friend Skip moved to Tennessee, and he had this car, and he'd brought it somebody from Oklahoma or somewhere and had it just put up on the shelf. And I asked him one day about selling. He said he would, and I bought it from him, and 5 years later it's together. Look closely at this classic Chevy wagon. This is no Nomad.
This is a 1964 Chevrolet Biscayne wagon. Norm Schroeder was looking for parts to complete another project when he found this wagon. He bought it. It was listed as a parts car, but it isn't that anymore. Norm says that it's now part of the family.
Well, growing up as a kid, as far back as I can remember, we always had a station wagon in the family as a utility vehicle for running errands or just whatever it took to get the dog someplace, and I'm sticking with it, just keeping the tradition going. Well, when I bought it, the whole front end of the car was removed and the car was basically a parts car, so everything you see has been redone. The engine's been rebuilt. It's a 283 Chevrolet. I've upgraded the transmission to a Turbo 350, and it has four-wheel disc brakes now, and possibly down the road air conditioning. Got to make Mama happy.
We're going to take a break from the Lokar Open House here in Knoxville, Tennessee, but we'll be right back with plenty more to see. The Lokar Car Show, presented by Original Parts Group, is brought to you by ARP, proudly made in the USA, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, world-class restoration parts. Lokar, quality, plain and simple. And by National Parts Depot, make your dream happen. Resto Parts Restoration, powered by Original Parts Group.
One of the most common upgrades to your vehicle when you get, especially a classic, is either going to be stereo, power windows, all sorts of different power accessories, especially nowadays with all the modern electronics that exist out there. People want to add that to their car. First mistake people do is they don't realize they need to change their alternator out to something with higher amperage. Second mistake they do is that they don't know that that's not the only part you need. Here's a good example of it. Here's a typical wiring harness for GM, and all these cars back in the day had an external regulator alternator. Okay, the new modern alternators are internally regulated. Now this part, even though it looks just like your old one, it doesn't just bolt in and wire up. There is something else you need to add to it, which is this internal regulated alternator conversion kit. You see this little kit right here? It looks very simple, but this is actually very important and very necessary when you add one of these internally regulated alternators. First part is this plug. Here's a stock wiring plug for this car. It has two stacked ends on it. It will not plug into the new modern alternator. You need one with a side-by-side plug like this one. So what this does, makes it very easy, very clean. You plug it to your old harness and it plugs into the new alternator. Very simple, okay? But here's the most important part, is this little rerouter or plug. This goes where your voltage regulator will normally go, okay? What you do is you disconnect your voltage regulator and you toss this in the trash, okay? This plugs into the existing wiring harness and reroutes the power going back to your alternator, giving you a proper charging system. What a lot of people do is they just plug this in or change the wires over. You end up having a short circuit or something doesn't work. You don't want that on your Classic. Make sure you buy the proper stuff and the right stuff, and you'll always have a good working car.
We're going to stick with the 1932 Fords for another minute or two. This three-window coupe owned by Rick Edmonds wasn't purchased, but we will let him tell you about how he got the car. If you look closely, you will notice suicide doors on this hot rod. Since we're in Knoxville, Tennessee, it is worth mentioning the paint. Although Rick is from Southern Ohio, he says he likes the Tennessee orange. White painted wheels, large white wall tires in addition to that. He may not be a volunteer fan, but in Knoxville, he fits right in.
It is the NSRA giveaway car in 2012. I drove, I've been going to them ever since they've been to every one of them in Louisville. And I was just lucky enough, they drawed my number out. I had an old 48 Plymouth that I drove down there to it. I'm going to Columbus and I'm going to Louisville again this year, and may take it to Nashville or other places. They're made to drive.
We're going to jump back to another 1930s Ford. This time we have a 34 5-windows coupe owned by Gary Proffitt. He bought the car mostly restored and enjoys traveling in it to car shows. He's been coming to Lokar for about 8 years now.
First time I ever seen this car was at a local cruise-in. I told my buddy, you know, this is the car I want. Exactly, you know, it's the right color, right interior, everything. So a few years later, the gentleman put it up for sale and I bought it. It cruises pretty good, about 70, 75 miles an hour, you know, and then we do the local cruise-ins and, you know, car shows in neighboring towns. We like to support them, you know, they come to Asheville to support us, so we like to support other clubs. And we come to the Lokar, you know, back when they had them 8 years ago, we come to them always. And then we go to the NSRA show for the weekend. So we come every year, first weekend in May.
The 70. Chevelle El Camino. I've had it since it was new. I like them. I liked it, and it rides like a car, and you can haul stuff in it like a pickup. Since I've rebuilt it, about 3,000 miles. It had over 100,000 before that. I had to put just about all new sheet metal on it, and put a new motor and the same transmissions in it. We go to the hot rod shows quite a bit. Other than that, I just drive back and forth around town and stuff like that. But we've been going to this street rod show down here for about 11 years. So, and we enjoy it.
If you get a chance to come to our facility in Knoxville, make sure you check out our showroom. There are 5 1930s Fords and this 1969 Camaro RS that we built for SEMA. The Lokar RS is used to showcase just a few of the quality parts that we make right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We hope that you enjoyed the inside look at our facility in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you didn't get the chance to attend the Lokar Open House, make sure to mark your calendar for next year. Tune in next week for a trip to Destin, Florida for the Burning Up the Beaches Car Show.